I don't really know how to start this, but I feel like if I don't write it somewhere, I'm gonna explode. So here I am, dumping it all on this anonymous forum because I can't tell my parents, my friends, or anyone I actually know. Maybe someone here will read this and at least understand why I did what I did. Or maybe you'll all hate me, I don't know. But here goes nothing. My name is Emma. I'm 18, and I just finished my first year at a community college in upstate New York. It's a pretty normal place, nothing fancy. My parents were so proud when I got accepted. I'm the first in my family to go to college at all. My dad works in construction and my mom's a nurse, so they've always pushed me to study hard and become someone. I actually liked school, mostly. I've always been that kid who turns in her homework early and doesn't get in trouble. I guess I wanted people to be proud of me. I started the fall semester excited but exhausted, new classes, new people, dorm life. It was a lot. But then I signed up for an elective I didn't even care about that much at first. Modern American Literature. I just needed 3 more credits, and my advisor said Professor James Miller was a good teacher. That was his name, James Miller, though obviously I didn't call him that back then. To us, he was Professor Miller, or just Mr. Miller. He was 32, I think, young for a professor but still felt older to me. From the first day, he was different. He didn't lecture like the other teachers. He sat on the edge of his desk, asked us what we thought about the books, joked about boring essays. He remembered everyone's name by the second week. I sat near the front because I'm that type of student, the one who raises her hand and actually reads the chapters. I don't know when exactly I started to notice him in that way. Maybe it was how he looked at me when I talked, or how he'd make these random comments after class like, "You really have a way with words, Emma," or "You'd make a good writer someday." No one had ever said stuff like that to me. I felt smart around him. Special. One day in October, he asked me to stay after class. I was so nervous I was shaking. I thought maybe I'd messed up my paper or something. But he just smiled and said he loved my essay on The Great Gatsby and wanted to know if I'd thought about majoring in English. I didn't even know what to say. He told me if I ever wanted extra help or advice, his office door was always open. That should have been it. Just a nice teacher trying to help. But I went to his office the next week. I don't even remember why, something about my midterm. We ended up talking for almost an hour about books and movies and music. I remember laughing so hard at one of his stories about when he was in grad school. When I got back to my dorm, I couldn't stop replaying everything in my head. I didn't tell anyone. My roommate, Sarah, asked why I was smiling like an idiot, and I just said, "Nothing, just got a good grade." I think I was lying to myself too. I told myself he was just being friendly. A mentor, nothing more. But then he started emailing me. At first it was normal feedback on my essays, extra reading suggestions. Then it turned into jokes. Little inside things that only he and I would get. Then one night he emailed me really late, like 11 p.m., and said he was grading papers at the diner near campus, and if I was awake I should come by. I didn't go, but my heart was pounding so hard reading it. I didn't sleep that night. A week later, I did go. He invited me to grab coffee after class. I was so nervous, I kept telling myself it was just coffee. But when we sat there, I felt like I was the only person in the whole place. He asked about my family, what I wanted to do with my life, why I chose this college. No teacher had ever cared like that. After that, it just kept happening. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into dinner. He'd drive me off campus so no one would see. We went to this tiny Italian place 2 towns over. The first time he paid, I felt like I was on a real date, even though I wouldn't admit that to myself yet. He told me about his life too, how he just moved here 2 years ago, how his last relationship ended badly. He said sometimes he felt so alone in this small town. I told him I knew how that felt. I think that's when we crossed the line. The first time he touched me was so stupid and small. He brushed a piece of hair behind my ear when we were sitting in his car. I swear my heart stopped.
He didn't kiss me that night.
But the next time we were in his car after another dinner he did. It wasn't even that romantic. We were parked behind the diner where no one could see. He leaned over and kissed me, and I just let him. I didn't think about rules or consequences or my parents or anything. I just wanted to feel wanted by him. After that, it was like we were in our own little bubble. I knew it was wrong. I knew if anyone found out, he could get fired, I could get expelled, my parents would disown me. But at the same time, I felt so alive. He made me feel older, special, like I wasn't just Emma the good student anymore. I was his Emma.
I know how stupid that sounds now.
But back then it felt like a movie. It didn't feel real, so I didn't treat it like it was real. We kept it secret. I lied to Sarah all the time, said I was pulling all-nighters in the library or going home for the weekend. Meanwhile, I was with him at some cheap motel off the highway, pretending we were a real couple. If you told me back then how bad this would get, I don't think I would have believed you. But that's how it started. That's how I went from Emma the good girl to the girl who fell for her professor. And that's only the beginning. After that first kiss, there was no going back, even though a big part of me knew I probably should have run the other way. I kept telling myself it was harmless, that I was mature enough to handle it, that it wasn't that big of a deal. I wasn't some little kid. I was 18. He wasn't that much older, right? It wasn't like in the movies where the teacher is twice your age. James, he told me to call him James when we were alone, was only 32. I kept telling myself that made it okay. We fell into this routine that felt secret and exciting and terrifying all at once. He'd message me late at night, sometimes just one word. Up. Or he'd send a dumb joke about something we'd talked about in class. I'd get dressed quietly in my dorm bathroom, so Sarah wouldn't wake up and ask questions. I told her I'd started going for late-night walks to clear my head. I think she knew I was lying, but she didn't push it. She probably thought I was sneaking off to meet some college guy, not my professor. At first, it was just makeouts in his car. We'd find some dark corner of the student parking lot or the dead end behind the grocery store. He always smelled like cologne and coffee and those stupid spearmint mints he chewed constantly. I still can't smell spearmint without wanting to cry now. Anyway, it didn't stay at just kissing for long. I wish I could say I put up any kind of fight, but I didn't. I wanted him to want me. He made me feel like I wasn't just this boring small-town girl. He said I was interesting. He said I was different. The first time we actually had sex was in a motel about 20 minutes outside town. He said it was safer there, away from anyone who might recognize his car. It was this gross little place with faded floral bedspreads and a vending machine that didn't work. I was so nervous I almost threw up in the bathroom before. He just held my hand and said I didn't have to do anything I didn't want to do, but I did want to. Or, at least, I wanted him to keep looking at me the way he did. After that, it was like we were addicted to it. Every weekend I could sneak away. We'd meet up. Sometimes he'd drive me out to a park, and we'd just lie in the back of his car and talk. He'd tell me how miserable he was at the college, how the other professors were stuck up, how the administration treated him like garbage. He said I was the only good thing about this town. He'd brush my hair back and say he wished we could just leave. Go somewhere no one knew us. He never actually said I love you. Neither did I. But I think a part of me thought maybe he did in his own way. And that was enough for me to ignore all the obvious signs that this was a disaster waiting to happen. The weird part is that during the week, at school, he acted totally normal. In class, he barely looked at me. Sometimes he'd praise my work a little too much, and I'd see people glance at me like they were jealous. I pretended not to notice. Sarah made a joke once. She called me teacher's pet, and I laughed so hard I almost cried. She had no idea how true that was. The scariest moments were when we almost got caught. One night we were in his car, parked by the lake, and a campus security guy drove by and shone his flashlight at us. I ducked down so fast I hit my head on the dashboard. James told the guy he was just grading papers and left his headlights on for the rest of the night, so no one would bother us again. Looking back, I hate how much I loved the adrenaline of it. It made me feel powerful and wanted, like I knew something no one else knew. But underneath all that, I was so scared of someone finding out. I used to check my phone 100 times a day, terrified there'd be some email from the dean or my parents. But it never came. Not then. One night in February, we had this stupid little argument. He said he didn't like me texting him so much during the day. He said it made him nervous. I snapped and told him maybe he didn't care about me at all. He pulled the car over and just looked at me for the longest time before saying, "Emma, you know I care. But we have to be smart. If anyone finds out, I'm done. I lose everything." That's when I realized I could lose everything too. If he went down, so did I. But I told myself it was worth it. That this thing we had was worth more than my degree, my parents' trust, my reputation. I don't know if I really believed that or if I just needed to. Spring break came, and I lied to my parents and said I was staying on campus to study. I spent almost the whole week with him. We drove 3 hours away to a cheap beach motel. He said it was the closest we'd ever get to a real vacation together. He held my hand in public once, just for a second when no one was around. I remember thinking, this is what it's supposed to feel like to be in love. I almost told him I loved him that night, but chickened out at the last second. By April, I was skipping classes more and more just to be with him. He told me not to, said it would look suspicious, but I didn't care. I felt addicted to him, to us. I didn't even see that he was starting to pull away a little. He'd cancel plans last minute or snap at me if I asked too many questions. But I always forgave him. I thought he was stressed about work. I thought maybe I just needed to be more careful, more understanding. I was so sure we could keep it hidden forever. That no one would ever know what we were doing behind those motel doors or in his car late at night. I didn't think about consequences. I didn't think about what could happen if we slipped up. I was 18 and in love, or at least I thought I was. I wish I could go back to that version of me and shake her. Tell her to run. But I didn't. And pretty soon, the secret wasn't going to stay a secret much longer. I still remember the exact day everything started to crack. It was a Thursday in late April. I hadn't gotten my period yet, but I didn't really think about it at first. My cycle was always a little weird when I was stressed, and college had been a non-stop stress machine that semester. Essays, exams, lying to my parents every time they asked when I was coming home for the weekend. Plus, I told myself it was impossible. James and I were careful. Mostly. But then a week passed. Then another few days. I was in the bathroom in my dorm one morning brushing my teeth, and I just knew. It hit me out of nowhere, like a punch in the stomach. I sat down on the edge of the bathtub and stared at the floor until Sarah banged on the door and told me to hurry up. I skipped my classes that day. I went to the drugstore 3 blocks from campus so no one would see me. I remember how my hands were shaking when I grabbed the test off the shelf. I paid in cash and stuffed it in my backpack like it was something illegal. Back in my dorm, Sarah was in class, so I locked myself in the bathroom and just sat there, staring at the little box. It felt like hours before I actually did it. When I finally saw the 2 pink lines, I felt like my brain short-circuited. I wasn't even crying. I wasn't feeling anything. Just blank. I remember thinking, this can't be real. This can't be real. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't call my mom. She'd know something was wrong just from the way I said hi. I couldn't tell Sarah. She'd ask 1,000 questions. So I texted James. He didn't answer right away. I sat on my bed staring at my phone for 2 hours, waiting for the 3s to pop up. When he finally called, I almost didn't pick up. I didn't know how to say it out loud. But when I did, I just blurted it. I'm pregnant. He was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. When he finally spoke, his voice didn't sound like his. He just said, "Are you sure?" I told him about the test. He said, Okay, I'll come over." He didn't come to my dorm, obviously he couldn't, so I met him in his car in the parking lot behind the old library. I got in, and he just stared at the steering wheel. He wouldn't look at me. I tried to touch his arm, but he pulled away. He asked if I was really sure. I almost screamed at him right there. He calmed me down eventually. Said we'd figure it out. Said we needed to think. Said it would be okay. I wanted so badly to believe him. I think a part of me wanted him to say, "It's okay, we'll get married, we'll be a family." But he didn't say that. He didn't say anything like that. He just kept mumbling about how we needed to be careful. How no one could find out. That night I lay awake in my dorm, staring at the ceiling, my hand on my stomach. It didn't feel real yet. I didn't feel different. I thought maybe it would just go away somehow, that I'd wake up bleeding and it would be over. But it didn't. Over the next few days, I felt like I was living 2 lives at once. I was still showing up to class pretending to take notes while James stood at the front of the room talking about To Kill a Mockingbird, like my whole life wasn't imploding. After class, he'd avoid my eyes. When I texted him, he'd take hours to respond, or sometimes he wouldn't at all. I started Googling things late at night, clinics, options, stories from other girls who'd been through this. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I could handle. One night, I asked him if he'd help me pay for an abortion if I decided to do that. He just stared at me and said, "Don't say that here," like someone might hear through the locked car doors. He never gave me an answer. I think the worst part was how alone I felt. I couldn't tell my mom. She'd be destroyed. I couldn't tell my dad. He'd probably kill James or me or both of us. I couldn't tell Sarah. She'd tell someone, or she'd cry, and I couldn't handle that either. So I just carried it by myself. Meanwhile, things between us got weird. He'd pick fights with me over nothing. Why did I text him when he was at a department meeting? Why did I ask when we'd see each other next? He told me to stop acting crazy. I wanted to scream that I wouldn't be acting crazy if he hadn't gotten me pregnant in the first place. But I didn't say that. I just said sorry.
I was always saying sorry.
One night in early May, we met at the motel again. I remember lying next to him, staring at the ceiling fan, trying not to cry. He fell asleep. I watched him breathe and thought, how did I get here? I was supposed to be studying for finals. Instead, I was lying next to a man who wouldn't even hold my hand anymore. When I asked him what we were going to do, he told me he didn't know. He said he needed time to think. Time to think? About what? I was the one throwing up every morning. I was the one who had to lie to everyone in my life every single day. But somehow it was him who needed time. I started to feel like maybe I hated him. But then he'd touch my hair, or kiss my forehead, and I'd melt right back into believing he'd fix everything. Looking back, I think I knew even then that he was never going to fix it. I was on my own. I just didn't want to admit it yet. I wanted to hold on to my stupid fantasy that he'd choose me, that he'd step up, that he'd protect me. But secrets like ours don't stay buried forever. I just didn't know yet how fast mine was about to explode. I didn't plan for anyone to find out. That was the whole point. It was supposed to stay hidden forever. But secrets have a way of slipping through the cracks when you're not careful. And by then, I was far from careful. I was a mess, physically, emotionally, every way possible. It started small. Sarah noticed first. One night she came back from a late shift at the coffee shop and found me curled up in bed, crying. She thought it was just stress. She sat on the edge of my bed, rubbing my back, telling me finals would be over soon. I almost told her right then, but I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. But after that, she watched me more closely. She'd ask why I was throwing up in the mornings. I blamed it on bad cafeteria food.
She didn't buy it.
I could see it in her face. Then she found the empty test box in our bathroom trash. She didn't say anything for 2 days, just kept looking at me like she was waiting for me to come clean. It all came out one night when I came back to the dorm after seeing James. I was tired. My eyes were puffy from crying because we'd argued again. About what? I don't even remember. I walked in and she was sitting at my desk. She didn't even say hi, just, "Emma, are you pregnant?" I froze. I wanted to lie. I opened my mouth to say no, but nothing came out. She started crying before I did. She kept asking, "Who is it? Is it that guy from the diner? Is it someone from campus?" I couldn't say it. I just shook my head. I think that scared her even more. Eventually I told her. Not everything, not at first, but enough. Enough that her hands flew to her mouth, and she just kept whispering, "Oh my God. Oh my God." She asked me if I was in love with him. I didn't know what to say.
Was I?
I don't even know anymore. She made me promise I'd tell someone. An adult. A counselor. Anyone. She threatened to do it herself if I didn't. I begged her not to. I told her he'd lose his job. I'd get kicked out. My parents would never forgive me. She just kept shaking her head like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Things got worse after that. James started avoiding me altogether. He'd cancel every time I asked to meet. His messages got colder. Shorter. He stopped calling me baby. He stopped calling me anything at all. One night he texted, "We need to be careful. People are asking questions." I asked him what that meant. He said some student told another professor they'd seen his car near the dorms too late at night. He said people gossip. He said I needed to be more careful. Like it was all my fault. Like I hadn't been the one hiding everything for months. Sarah begged me to go to the clinic and at least talk to someone.
So I did.
I didn't tell James. I went alone. I sat in that freezing waiting room with my hoodie pulled over my head like that would make me invisible. They asked me all these questions in soft voices. How far along are you? Are you safe at home? Is the father supportive? I lied to half of them. Said yes when I meant no. Said I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, because I wasn't. I was so scared. I knew what I probably should do. But part of me still hoped he'd come back. He'd knock on my door and say, "Okay, let's do this together. Let's run away. Let's start over." He didn't knock. Instead, he called me a week later and told me we needed to stop seeing each other until things calmed down. I asked what that meant, until when. He just kept saying, "It's too risky right now." He told me to handle it, like it was a chore on a to-do list. I hung up on him. I sat on my dorm floor and screamed into my pillow so Sarah wouldn't hear.
She heard anyway.
She sat with me for hours while I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. I told her I hated him, that I loved him, that I wished I'd never met him, that I wished I could make it all disappear. I still hadn't told my parents. Mother's Day came, and I went home like nothing was wrong. I sat at the kitchen table while my mom asked about classes and my dad asked about summer jobs. I wanted to stand up and scream, "Your daughter is pregnant by her professor. Your daughter is one big lie." But I just smiled and said everything was fine. A week later, Sarah did what she said she'd do. She told someone. Not my parents, thank God, but she went to the student counselor. She didn't tell me until afterward. I felt so betrayed I didn't talk to her for 2 days. She kept saying she did it because she loves me, that she couldn't watch me drown alone. Once the counselor knew, it spread fast.
They called me in.
They asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. They promised it would be confidential, but I knew that was a lie the second they asked for his name. I didn't want to say it, but they pushed. They told me if I didn't tell, they couldn't help me. So I said it. James Carter. After that, it was like the world flipped upside down. He was called into meetings. Students whispered in hallways. Professors stared at me when they thought I wasn't looking. I didn't go to class. I couldn't face him. I couldn't face anyone. My phone blew up with messages from him. Why would you do this? What did you tell them? You ruined my life. Like I hadn't ruined mine too. One afternoon, he waited for me in the parking lot. He grabbed my arm when I tried to walk past. He said, "Emma, you have to fix this. Tell them you made it up. Tell them you lied." I just looked at him and realized I didn't even recognize him anymore. He wasn't the man who kissed my forehead in that cheap motel. He was just a scared, angry stranger. I pulled my arm away. I told him, "I'm done lying for you." And I meant it. For the first time, I meant it. After that day in the parking lot, everything happened so fast it felt like my head was spinning all the time. One minute, I was this invisible girl sneaking around campus. The next, I was the girl everyone stared at when I walked into the dining hall. Whispers followed me everywhere. Some people looked at me with pity. Some with disgust. Some acted like I was this dirty secret they'd uncovered. Proof that rumors you hear about college professors are sometimes true. James tried to call me a few more times. He texted, "Please, Emma. I'll lose everything. Just say it wasn't real." I stopped answering. What was there left to say? He'd already made it clear that saving himself was all he cared about. He didn't ask how I was feeling. Didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't ask about the baby. Just himself, his job, his reputation. That's all that ever really mattered to him. The college started an investigation. They called me into offices that smelled like old carpet and stale coffee. They asked the same questions over and over. When did it start? Where did you meet? Did he pressure you? I told them everything. Not because I wanted to destroy him. Honestly, I didn't even know how I felt about him anymore, but because I was tired. Tired of holding it in. Tired of covering for him while he covered his own ass. Sarah never left my side. Even when I was furious at her for blowing it open, she stayed. She held my hand in the waiting room when I had to tell the dean everything. She walked me to class when I was too embarrassed to show my face alone. She made me eat when I hadn't eaten in days. Looking back, I think I'd have fallen apart completely if she hadn't been there. One night, I sat on my dorm bed staring at my belly. It still didn't look like much, just a little swell under my sweatshirt. I pressed my hand there and whispered, "I'm so sorry. Sorry for dragging this little life into a mess it never asked for. Sorry for being so stupid. Sorry for not knowing what I was doing." My mom called every day asking why I hadn't come home lately. I kept putting her off, saying finals, projects, group work. I knew I couldn't hide it forever. The counselor kept telling me I needed to tell them. I needed to talk to them about what came next. Was I keeping it? Was I giving it up? Was I terminating? I didn't have answers. I didn't even know how to begin. The final break came when James resigned. They told me in the same breath they told me they were handling it internally. He'd lose his job, but they'd keep it quiet. No press.
No scandal.
Just gone. He sent me one last text before he disappeared. "I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted his number. After that, I had to face the other side, my parents. I went home one Saturday afternoon. Sarah drove me because I was shaking too bad to drive myself. I sat on my childhood bed with my mom across from me. I told her everything. Not every detail, but enough. Enough that she sat there with her hand over her mouth, just like Sarah did that first night. My dad didn't yell like I thought he would. He just looked at the floor for a long time and then walked out to the backyard. I heard him slam the shed door so hard it rattled the windows. They didn't kick me out. They didn't scream. But they didn't know what to say either. My mom kept saying, "You're just a baby yourself." I didn't argue because she was right. I felt like a baby pretending to be grown. Pretending I had any idea how to fix this. In the end, I decided to keep the baby. Not because it was brave or strong or the right thing. Honestly, part of me still doesn't know if it was the right thing, but because when I imagined letting go, I felt something in my chest crack open in a way I couldn't handle. I couldn't do it. Maybe that was selfish. Maybe it was stupid. But it was my choice, and for the first time in months, I felt like I owned something again. My parents didn't really agree, but they didn't push me out either. They let me move back home for the summer. They said we'd figure it out. They said they'd help me finish school somehow. I knew it wouldn't be easy. People would talk, money would be tight, nothing would ever be normal again. But when I lay in my childhood bedroom at night with my hand on my belly, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Small and fragile, but hope. I blocked James everywhere. I don't know where he went. I don't care. He doesn't get to have any piece of this new life I'm building. Not me, not my baby. I see his face sometimes in my dreams. Sometimes I miss who I thought he was. But mostly, I'm just glad he's gone. I started going to therapy. I joined a support group, other young moms who got blindsided like me. Some days I still feel like I'm drowning. But then I feel a tiny kick inside me, and remember there's a reason to keep swimming. I don't know what people say about me at school. Maybe they think I'm trash. Maybe they think I ruined his life. Maybe they think I'm a liar.
Let them.
They don't know what it's like to stand in a bathroom stall at 18, staring at two pink lines that change your whole world. They don't know what it's like to love someone who only loved you when it was convenient. What I know is this. I'm stronger than I was when this started. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not lying anymore. I'm just a girl who made some stupid choices, and now I'm a girl who's going to make better ones. Not just for me, but for the tiny heartbeat under my hand when I fall asleep at night. If you're reading this on this forum, maybe because you're scared, or stuck, or think you love someone who keeps you in the shadows, please know, you're not alone. Secrets don't stay buried forever, but sometimes that's not a curse. Sometimes it's the only way you get to breathe again. I'm breathing again. And my baby will too.